Sunday Surefire Podcast. I'm your host, the Commish. Joining me today is the co-host, Aaron Downtown Brown,
Hey, hey,
and the other co-host, Ethan Weaver.
Kamish, how we doing?
We are doing pretty well, boys. Doing pretty well. We are in the swing of redraft season. This is the one of the best times of the year, the entire calendar, because it's that time that we get reminded of one of our favorite activities, and that's fantasy football. And draft season is here. It's coming up for people this week and the coming weeks. Personally, I don't like to draft until after that third preseason game is in the rearview mirror, but nonetheless, like drafts are flying around all over the place. And so with that being in mind, we're gonna talk about some guys that we're really high on. And we're gonna do a really fun flag planting episode. We're gonna tell you guys that hey, these are the players that you need to get on your roster in 2024. They're gonna be crushing at their ADP. Either they're ranked perfectly, and this is the guy you should be picking out of a cluster, or maybe some guys that are kind of fall more to a sleeper category. So we're going to have two flag plant players each. We're each going to have one sleeper guy, and then we're going to have a one hot take, which is always fun around here. Aaron Downtown Brown, sort of our king of the hot takes. So
Buckle up.
when we were talking about the show, he was very excited to talk some hot takes. So whenever we
that's
get
right.
Aaron an opportunity to get revved up to drop some hot takes, he gets excited. So he's grinning ear to ear there in his Iowa hat. So
That's
we'll
right.
definitely get to that at the end of the show. For this exercise, if you want to follow along at home, we are going to reference ADP for all of the players that we're talking about. We're going to be using Fantasy Pros, half point, 1 QB ADP. So make sure you're following along on that. And with that getting going here, guys, someone kick it off for me. Someone tell me how confident you are in a player and why they're going to crush at their ADP in 2024.
I got you, Pat. I'll go ahead and kick it off here. Probably one of the highest ADPs I think we'll talk today. I'm gonna go Garrett Wilson. Currently ranked 13 at ADP. Garrett Wilson, as you were talking flag plans, I think he's a very safe pick. Um, you know, Being ranked at 13, that's just the start of the second round. But honestly, I would grab him anywhere after pick nine and on. All right. So I guess with that being said, I'm thinking he's going to be outperforming that position there. If you're looking at a few wide receivers that go before him, he's actually wide receiver 7 off the board as well. If we kind of look at his talent, coming into the league. We know what Garrett Wilson offers, but we also know what he had to work with in 2023, right? So, he was fourth in targets last year in the 23 season, and he also led the league in uncatchable targets as well. So I think it kind of makes sense with Zach Wilson as his QB last year. Not saying that Aaron Rodgers is still his, we'll go back to his true form, but I think it's safe to say that even like a 50-year-old Aaron Rodgers would be better than a Zach Wilson. So, I'm pretty firm on Garrett Wilson. I said anywhere after pick nine, I would be all over it, and I just love him at this ADP as well because you can get. I honestly think he can be a top five wide receiver this year, passing AJ Brown and in even Justin Jefferson with his QB concerns this year as well. So potential there. And then the beauty of it all is if you're around that range in picking, you can get a stud running back right after that too. So anytime I think you can get a top five wide receiver and a top five running back, you're setting yourself up beautifully in your draft there too. So yeah, I guess that's just kind of why I'm high on Garrett Wilson is just I think just being that sole alpha over there with the Jets, and I think we always talk touchdown regression, but this is almost the opposite story where he only came down with 3 touchdowns last year in 2023. So with that target share in 2024, I think there should be touchdown upside in 2024 as well.
Aaron wants to talk some positive touchdown regression. Positive regression to the mean is the term you're looking for there, Aaron.
There you
As
go.
far as his ADP goes, I think 13 overall is appropriate. I think WR7 is just about right. Aaron makes a really good point. You can start your draft with one of those running backs like a Saquon Barkley, Jahmyr Gibbs at the end of round one, and then kind of flip over to round two and just grab a wide receiver. I kind of like that approach because it sets you up to kind of do whatever you want in the next when the 3-4 turn comes. If you're drafting at the end of round one, so you're kind of more open ended, having one running back and one receiver. Like I said before, I'm a big hero running back guy where I want one of those stud running backs. So I think Wilson is perfectly fine, priced appropriately. And as Aaron Rodgers' top receiver, I mean, we saw that would be nothing but gold for Davante Adams for a few years. And if Rodgers can squeak out one more good, solid season of NFL production, even if he's not in his prime, I think it could spell good things for Garrett Wilson as well. Ethan, give me your thoughts on Wilson, and then give me your first flag plant player.
Not much more to add about Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson's a good receiver in a prime position to take off in 2024 with Aaron Rodgers at the helm. As Aaron said, he is the sole alpha on that team. Not a ton of target competition with frequently injured Mike Williams. You have Xavier Gibson right now slotted at the wide receiver 3. Malachi Corley and Alan Lazard is also there with Tyler Conklin at the tight end position. So Garrett Wilson is the clear alpha in that room and should be peppered with targets. So I do like the call with Garrett Wilson. I think he should be a locked and loaded wide receiver 1 this year if all goes well in New York. That being said, I will go to my flag plant. I've talked a lot about this player in the offseason through our rookie profiles, through our rookie drafts, and all the way up to now. And it's no surprise that my first flag plant player is tight end Brock Bowers of the Las Vegas Raiders. Right now, he's going to ADP 98, which is 902, tight end 11. And I just think at tight end 11, I think it's a steal. I think Brock Bowers is easily going to be a top 5 tight end this year. I just think he's too good. I've said it over and over again. The guy came into the SEC and dominated, was first team all SEC as a freshman, and was the nation's top tight end his sophomore and junior years, earning the John Mackey Award. And I think he's going to do similar things when he enters the NFL in his first season. I think he is going to do great things on the Raiders offense. I know the Raiders offense probably won't be as efficient as we would like, but I do think he's going to be able to earn a lot of targets behind Davante Adams. Just looking at his first preseason game, he played 11 snaps. He went 2 for 25 in those 11 snaps, but they used him all over the formation. He had 4 snaps in line, 3 out wide, 3 in the backfield, and 1 in the slot. He actually had one of his catches coming out of the backfield as a fullback. So I just think they're going to use this kid all over the formation. He's just too athletic. I think he's going to create way too many mismatches. And besides Davante Adams, I mean, his biggest competition in the receiving game is Jacoby Myers. And I think Bowers is going to take over as the number 2 target earner in this offense sooner rather than later. And I'm just all in on Brock Bowers. He's a guy that I've liked for a long time, and I think he's going to have many great seasons in the NFL, and I think it's going to start in his rookie year.
Aaron, is this the cheapest you're ever going to be able to draft Brock Bowers in redraft leagues?
You know, it probably is. I mean, that's a good question. I was just gonna say, like, flag plant wise, tight end 11, is probably his floor in the next couple of years too. So it's not a bad take there, Ethan. I do think if it's a full point PPR league, I do think he may possibly leap, maybe up to like tight end 8 range or something like that. Half point scares me a little bit, just looking at, how many touchdowns can he come down with this upcoming season. But love his talent and everything, like you said. But yeah, I think tight end 11 I'm okay with, right? But I think I like him a tad bit more in a full point league.
Yeah, he's tight end 11. He's also right on the fringe of the top 100 picks, going 98th overall in ADP at the moment. So I'm definitely inclined to take a shot if I punted on tight end a little bit, and I'm okay waiting. Like, I don't necessarily want to grab David Njoku around earlier. I don't want to necessarily buy in on Jake Ferguson, who goes 2 rounds earlier. So I would rather sit there and wait the 2 rounds for Brock Bowers to come to me, and I'll just bet on the talent. And if I want to, I can come back later with a guy like a TJ Hawkinson, who actually goes later because he's injured right now. So he's a guy I like as well too. TE14. I think that's a kind of a good two-way go, if you will, where you can take a shot on upside with both players, really. You take a swing with Bowers on the talent, and then you insulate yourself with Hawkinson who will be back on the field down the stretch, who we know is in elite talent from a fantasy scoring production metric at least. So yeah, I like that call a lot for a flag plant. Rookies in general make really good flag plants because they are typically a little bit cheaper. Because just let's face it, I mean, dynasty managers like us who are keyed in 24/7, those people know who the rookies are. In some cases, they have known who they are for several years before they hit the NFL. That's not necessarily the case in redraft, where a lot of, we'll just say, more casual fans who, they pop in August this time of year and they see these names that they don't recognize. They feel more comfortable grabbing guys that they've had before or players that they've seen produce in fantasy years earlier. So I mean, it's kind of a natural thing here that you see rookies becoming good values and guys that you can get to outperform their ADP, and that's why I'm going to start this exercise on my end with another rookie. I'm going to go with. We talked about Garrett Wilson in the Big Apple. I'm going to stick in the Big Apple in New York City. I'm going to go to Malik Nabers of the New York Giants. ADP 52 overall, good for WR24. He is by far my favorite pick in round 5, and hell, I think he'd even be my favorite pick in round 4 if he stayed, if he crept up a little bit in that ADP. I mean, I just think he has all the tools to be awesome for fantasy this season. And before I even make the case on Nabers, I kind of want to just hop in the time machine real quick. I want to go back to 4 years ago, or Brian Daboll was the OC in Buffalo, and they traded for Stephon Diggs. And at the time, Josh Allen was teetering on that kind of like break point of his career, where the first 2 years didn't go that great, and they were kind of thinking like, okay, is this the ceiling with Josh Allen? And in order to get that answer, they surrounded him with talent. They went out, they traded a first-round pick for Stephon Diggs. In his 2 years in Buffalo, when Brian Daboll, who's the current coach of the Giants, was the offensive coordinator in Buffalo, he made Stephon Diggs one of the most targeted players in the NFL. In 2020, he was number 1 in the league in targets among wide receivers, and he finished WR3 overall in fantasy scoring. So as much as people are down on Daniel Jones, and I'm not going to sit here and say that he's going to make a Josh Allen-esque leap in this, what is this now, his 5th year with the Giants, but I do think that I look around this Giants offense and I see it just being bereft of pass catchers outside of Malik Nabers. And the last time we saw this type of scenario unfold in a Brian Daboll offense, it was in Buffalo, and all they did was funnel targets to Stephon Diggs. And if you guys watch Hard Knocks at all, this team that they were incredibly high on him throughout the process. They even had him above Marvin Harrison on their draft board, if you believe what you read on there. So turned down several offers to move back and just stayed there, grabbed their guy. And listen, even though this Giants offense might not be like top 5 in the league in scoring, I don't see that coming. I think there's enough targets to go around and enough. And when I say go around, I mean go to Malik Nabers to keep him incredibly fantasy viable this season, guys.
I like to call him Malik Nabers. There's just not a lot of competition for targets, and he's clearly the most talented player in that offense. I think Daniel Jones is going to throw the ball his way early and often. I mean, Nabers is just that. I mean, he's that guy. I mean, you can put him in the same breath as even like guys like Jamar Chase coming out. I mean, even Justin Jefferson. Nabers was probably a more sought after talent in this year's draft than Jefferson was when he was coming out.
100%.
Nabers is just that guy. And I think the talent, the cream of the crop, rise to the top. Nabers is that guy. And I don't hate Daniel Jones. I think Daniel Jones gets a bad rap sometimes. I'm kind of excited to see what he can do with a guy like Malik Nabers. But I mean, just look at that Giants offense, like you said, Kamish. There's just no one of consequence in there that's going to compete with Nabers. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets 150 targets this year. He just needs to stay healthy, and picks like Nabers in the 5th round could win you leagues.
I agree. I mean, not a whole lot more to add on to Nabers. I like him as well. I mean, let's also mention that Barkley is gone, right? I mean, I know he's a running back, but if you looked at the Giants offense last year, the offense really just lived through Barkley and to see what they could do while he was on the floor, right? I think, the offensive plays may change a little bit, on the goal line, or like the 5-yard line, that's got Nabers written all over it too. So I love that call as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is also like kind of a make or break year for Jalen Jones. I mean, they can get out of his contract after this year if they want to. And so it's kind of like, I mean, yeah, Barkley's gone. They signed Devin Singletary. They signed a couple of offensive linemen. I get that. But like, you got to get an answer on Daniel Jones, and you're going to get it this year. You're not going to get it by handing it to Singletary. So they're going to chuck the rock to Neighbors a ton. He's going to be really fun to watch. I think he's going to take the league by storm this season. But Aaron, let's kick it back to you, brother. Who's the second player that you're planting your flag on this season?
All right, I'm gonna start doing this. Right, so got to do my homerism
Get out.
at least
Get out.
once in a while, right? But no, I like I'm going with Isaiah Pacheco. ADP 23, sent at running back 11. He's been moving up a little bit in rankings recently. I think people are really just looking at his situation coming up here in 2024. If you're in the range at his ADP, I mean, you most likely took like a Tyreek Hill or Jamar Chase in round one. And I think Isaiah Pacheco would be a great pairing, right? Somebody solid. Really, when you look at just running backs in fantasy football, and I think some of the formulas that will never change in the history of fantasy football is if they're a workhorse back, that's a good sign, right? If they're on a winning team and a good defense, that are all signs for top fantasy output for running backs, right? So I think that checks the box with Isaiah Pacheco in all those categories too. So I mean, we saw him come alive a lot more in the passing game last year as well too. So I just think Isaiah Pacheco is just such a safe pick, especially if you got such a game breaker wide receiver in the first round and you're just looking for a workhorse back. I think Isaiah Pacheco can break into the top 10 running backs quite easily in 2024, where we should see a little bit more of a higher scoring offense from the Chiefs this year.
Ethan, are you in on Pacheco at number 23 overall in ADP?
I'm not a big Pacheco guy, but just looking at the board, especially in half point, I don't hate selecting Pacheco at 23. It's definitely not something I would I would love to do. But if you went receiver at the 102, if it was whether it was CeeDee Lamb, Chase, Jefferson, Amon, whoever it is, and you come around at 23 and you pick Isaiah Pacheco, I think he is a pretty safe back. If he stays healthy, he's going to be in one of the most efficient offenses in the league. He's going to have a ton of touchdown upside. There's like zero competition behind him with CEH, Generic Prince, and Keontae Ingram. So it's his backfield. I believe he just his past preseason game, he played 100% of the backfield snaps of the first team offense. He's going to be on the field. If he can work into that third down role a little more, I mean, that will just increase his upside. So just looking at the players or the running backs around there, Josh Jacobs goes at 25. I can see going Pacheco over Jacobs just due to the lack of competition that Pacheco has to offer. But I think those two are relatively similar. Josh Jacobs does have a ton of miles on his body the last couple of years, and Pacheco, he does run he does run like a bull in a china shop, so you never know when he's getting hurt. But I don't hate the call with Pacheco at 23. He's just not one of my favorite players.
I mean, I didn't love the guy either, to be honest with you, coming out. I didn't think very much of him. And even like when he was going off early, I'm like, this isn't going to last. Like this guy, like the way this guy runs is going to he's going to get teed off on out there and get hurt. And that could happen. But like, I'm kind of also done fighting back on that because I mean, like the RB11 sounds about right for me in redraft just because the guys that go after him just don't inspire a ton of confidence in me. You said Jacobs goes after him. There. And I mean, I'd rather have Pacheco than Jacobs personally. And then there's kind of a bit of a gap before you get to like guys like Rashad White and James Cook. So yeah, it very well could be the highest scoring offense in the league. It's probably what the betting odds are that they will be the highest scoring offense in the league, given the moves that they've made, given the quarterback and the head coach that they have to work with in Kansas City. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with buying in on him at the end of round 2, maybe even the start of round 3. So yeah, grab Pacheco there. I think it's a solid flag plan, Aaron. Ethan, what else you got for us?
Okay, on the flag plant number 2, another guy we've talked a decent amount. I'm gonna go Christian Kirk, overall 73, wide receiver 32. I just think at wide receiver 32 prices, you're getting a bargain on a guy who I think is going to be a locked and loaded wide receiver 2 at his floor. he only played 12 games last season. So if you projected what he did last year in the 17 games, it would have been around 87 catches on 133 targets for around 1,200 yards, which and around 5 touchdowns, which would have amounted to 191 fantasy points, which would have been good for wide receiver 17, which ironically was Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley is no longer there, and Zay Jones is gone as well. So now you're looking at Christian Kirk, Brian Thomas, and Aaron's boy Gabe Davis. You also got Evan Ingram there, who is going to garner a lot of targets as well. I just think Christian Kirk amongst that receiver group is going to be the clear wide receiver one. There's 200 vacated targets with Zay Jones with Zay Jones and Calvin Ridley, and I think Christian Kirk is talented enough to amass a lot of those targets to come his way. I don't think Evan Ingram is going to eclipse his 136 targets, and Trevor Lawrence was chucking the ball all over the yard last year. He was 8 in pass attempts, 10 in passing yards, 5 in air yards. Christian Kirk isn't too far removed from a wide receiver 11 season in 2022. His competition is a rookie in Brian Thomas and Gabe Davis. I mean, Gabe Davis played all 17 games last year and only amassed 139 fantasy points. Didn't even eclipse 50 receptions. So I think the offense is going to funnel through Christian Kirk, and I honestly think it's wheels up. I don't understand why he's being drafted as a wide receiver 3 when I think his floor is a wide receiver 2.
Yeah, I think I think as you said, we have a lot of tape on Christian Kirk this year, and I think we all like him. I think this is one where it'd be don't overreact a little bit on the or too much, I should say, on the preseason games. I think, I seen some reports or just looking at the games that he was really only out there with the first team offense when they're in 3 wide receiver sets. But I think that's a little bit to that is they kind of wanted to see what Brian Thomas Jr. had to offer with Gabe Davis to kind of see who that true number 2 is there. And maybe they were just kind of reserving Kirk a little bit there. So yeah, I would just say don't overreact to his usage in the preseason, and I think Kirk is a safe play.
I mean, just follow the moves that Jacksonville did this offseason. I mean, they didn't touch their running back room. It's ETN there, who they said they want to scale some of the workload back on. Tank Bigsby, who didn't do anything really as a rookie. Like, those are the 2 main running backs there. They drafted a wide receiver in Brian Thomas, and they signed Gabe Davis. What the hell are they going to do this year? They're going to throw the football. Like, so yes, I want pieces of Christian Kirk. I've seen him be the lead receiver in this offense in the past, and I think it's just nothing but baked in upside there at WR32, Ethan. So that's a good call on your part. And I'm going to go back to the rookie well here. I'm going 2 for 2 for my flag plants on the 2024 rookie class. But I'm going to give us a peek at the quarterback position that we haven't had yet. I'm going to go Jaden Daniels, ADP 104 overall, QB 14. And just like I said, leading into those rookies being good values, baby. We'll see how it pans out. But we know that he can run the ball on the ground. We saw that in his last 2 years in college, over 2,000 rushing yards, 21 touchdowns combined over his final 2 seasons at LSU. But I think he can also be a better passer than people are willing to give him credit for. I said this on previous episodes. Like, he's not like a typical 21, 22-year-old rookie. He actually turned 24 during his rookie campaign, and he started 55 games in college. So he's coming in with a little bit more seasoning than most rookies are. And that Cliff Kingsbury offense is just something that I want a piece of here, especially with cheap exposure. During Kyler Murray's rookie year, he finished as a QB1, and then went on to have several seasons as a top 5 quarterback on a points per game basis. Some injuries in there as well. That's going to happen with mobile guys, but you're telling me I can get Jaden Daniels here and access to all that outside the top 100 picks. I'm just going to click the button on there all day. If he's going to sit there, I'll have no problem at all waiting around at quarterback in 1 QB leagues and just getting shares of Daniels. And if I can snag him in the 9th round, I'm going to love that. And like I said, it's quarterback in a 1 QB league. So if you're concerned about him as a rookie, or maybe he's not going to be ready for the NFL from day one, you could just go grab a safer guy later. Like Trevor Lawrence, Justin Herbert, Kirk Cousins, a few other players in that mix too, all go after Jaden Daniels in ADP. So worst case, you can stream quarterback, but you should draft Jaden Daniels, and you should do it. Be confident with him as your QB1 in 2024.
I like the call. I remember when I was drafting Lamar Jackson his sophomore year late in drafts, and he was a big reason why I won a lot of leagues that year. Jane Daniels, I think his absolute floor is QB 14. Um, and he just has QB1 written all over him with his rushing upside. You see these quarterbacks all the time with the rushing ability, like Justin Fields. I mean, Justin Fields, I think Jane Daniels is going to be a better passer than Fields was, and Fields was a perennial QB1 just because of his legs. Jane Daniels, I like the pairing with Cliff Kingsbury. There are pieces around him to succeed. If Daniels can stay healthy, can protect himself with his slight frame, I don't see why he can't be easily a top 12 quarterback.
I agree. I mean, you kind of read my mind there, Ethan. I was gonna say top 12 as well. I think, we had an episode a while back. We were saying a couple top 15 rookie quarterbacks this year, but I think Daniels can break the top 12 as well. Yeah, I'm all for him this year. I just hopefully he can avoid some of the big hits he took in college. You've seen on some of his highlight reels, but if he can avoid getting hit above the waist, then I think he should have a good year.
I think so too, and I think it's going to be one for the record books, hopefully for the sake of that take. But
Oh,
we'll
is that a prelude to a hot take there, Kamish?
may or may not be. We'll see. We'll see. But we'll for now we're not quite at hot takes yet. We're gonna round over to some sleepers, which are always fun to talk about. Aaron, you've been leading off all day here, so I guess we'll just make this the Aaron Brown show and let him go first here with the sleeper category. Who do you got for us?
Lead off. Hey, I was lead off in high school.
Uh,
Uh, hey, but we're not here for that. But hey,
Light
you
brag there,
brought
light brag.
you brought up the Giants wide receiver core, and I think if you looked at it last year, I think their passing game was kind of gross overall. But I'm gonna bring up a sleeper here. I know you brought up Neighbors earlier as a flag plant, but I want to dig a little deeper here on this Giants team. I'm gonna go Wandale Robinson. He's ADP 222 right now, wide receiver 78. So kind of deep there in your drafts. As you know, I think we all know Neighbors is definitely that number one. But I think it's very safe to say that Wandale is going to be the number two in targets on that team. You also had Darren Waller's retirement in the offseason as well. And Wandale, he's a full season recovered from that ACL tear that he suffered in his rookie season too. So, once we get to our DFS talk a lot too, we talk game script a lot. I think Wandale is going to get involved a lot, right? Because I don't think I think the Giants are going to be fine from behind a decent amount this year. In that division, and I think that's just really got PPR points written all over Wandale. So I think it's a sneaky play here. I think he can get you a good 9 points per game, which is pretty decent to count on coming off your bench if you got some injuries or something in the league too. So I like Wandale Robinson a lot this year, where they really don't have very many other options in the passing game. As we said, and with Barkley's departure as well, and no tight end. So Wandale is my sleeper.
Ethan, are you diving to the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean to to pull up some Wandale Robinson as a sleeper in 2024?
I honestly don't hate that call. As I alluded to before, there's just nobody there really outside Neighbors and Robinson. Darius Slayton's there. You have Isaiah Hodgins, the corpse that is Allen Robinson's there apparently, and then you have the tight end position, which is Bellinger and Theo Johnson. So I think the offense is going to go through Neighbors and Wandale Robinson. And I mean, Wandale, when he was on the field, was earning targets. I mean, in 2023, I mean, to end the season, he had targets of 7, 4, 7, 9, 6, and he did pretty well fantasy point wise. I mean, scoring 14.5, then a down week 14.5, but and then to end the season he had 16.9 and 11. So not terrible numbers for a guy that was coming back only in year two, coming off the ACL there late in the season. And I think Wan'Dale Robinson did show a decent amount when he was on the field. He just needs to stay healthy, and the Giants' offense needs to get a little more efficient there.
Yeah, I mean the Giants were a complete mess last season at the end, and he did have some highlights there. So, like you said, someone's going to emerge as a second pass catching option. I have no idea who it's going to be, but he's basically free. So, sure, by all means, take a swing at Wan'Dale Robinson and see if it pans out. Ethan, who are you taking a swing at as a sleeper and hoping they pan out this season?
Okay, I'm not going to talk in depth about this guy because I already talked about him, so I'm just going to throw him out there real quick. I think Kendre Miller, RB 53, overall 168, which is the 14-12, so the last pick in the 14th round, I think is a good sleeper candidate. If he can just stay on the field, I think he's clearly going to be the Saints RB2, and I believe he will lead the Saints in rushing if he can stay healthy. But that's Kendre Miller's biggest problem. He's on the shelf right now with a hamstring injury. I just think Jamal Williams is pretty much dead. He had his lowest yards per carry of his career, under 3 last year. Kamara has been was much less efficient last year, rushing the ball. So I just think it's Kendre Miller time if he can stay healthy. But I talked a lot about Kendre, so I'm just kind of give a little bonus shout out to him. But I'm going to talk about another guy, a receiver, playing for the Chargers. I'm going to go Joshua Palmer. I know it's a little gross, but
There you go.
I mean, the more you look at it, I just think there's 2 players that are getting hype out of the Chargers camp. It's Ladd McConkey and it's Joshua Palmer. Ladd McConkey's a rookie. I think it's going to take him time. It takes some time to assimilate into that offense. And Josh Palmer, I think, played well when he was on the field. And when in the 7 games without Mike Williams, he averaged 10.2 fantasy points per game. That's half point PPR. He had a 90% target share and 31.4% air yard share, which is relatively pretty good. And in games where Allen and Williams were out, he averaged 11.5 half point PPR points a game. There's 250 vacated targets between Allen, Williams, and Eckler. And I think Josh Palmer is the veteran guy that's going to come into the 2024 season as the de facto number 1. Will Ladd McConkey eclipse him as the season goes on? Maybe. But, I mean, you look at that roster, it's Ladd McConkey, Joshua Palmer, DJ Shark, and QJ fighting for that wide receiver 3 position, and really no tight end of consequence. Justin Herbert, he's going to throw the football to somebody. Why not take a stab in the 13th round on a guy like Joshua Palmer? That's immense upside in that round. If he ends up being the wide receiver 1 for Justin Herbert throughout the year, you just got an absolute steal late in your fantasy draft.
Yeah, I definitely like that call. I mean, I know that was I think we had an episode a while back. I think we were going back and forth with McConkey and him where I do think it's McConkey and Palmer, as you said, as the top 2 targets. And I actually think your boy DJ Chark beats out Quentin Johnson for that third role because
I'm happy and sad with that.
yeah, I just think Chark has to kind of keep the defenses honest a little bit, just running a couple deep routes a game. But I think it's Palmer and McConkey that are going to do the dirty work. And I think if you're looking at your draft, if you miss out on McConkey earlier, like I said a few weeks back, I would be happy grabbing Palmer because I actually think they may have very similar stats this year. So I like that call.
Yeah, in round 13, definitely take a swing. I mean, I don't even love Josh Palmer, but if you're telling me I can draft him in that round, I'm going to be happy to do that and see how it pans out. And if it doesn't pan out, guess what, guys? It's a 13th round pick. It's not going to kill you. You can just move on to someone else in that range. So if he's going to stay there, I'll definitely have some exposure to him as well, even though he's not my favorite player in the league. But I'm gonna go back to the NFC East for my sleeper. But everyone I've talked about so far has been in the NFC East apparently. So I don't know what was getting into me when I was prepping for this show, but we're sticking with that theme here. And I'm going to talk about my third different NFC East team here. I'm going to the Dallas Cowboys backfield. I'm going to go with Rico Dowdle, who's ADP 143 overall, RB 45. I mean, this price point feels like an absolute joke to me in the 12th round. I mean, like, come on, what are we talking about here? But if I guess I just have to chalk that up to people just kind of not really being aware who Dowdle is, even though he's not a rookie. He's been in the league for 4 years. But, in any event, I think people are just kind of seeing Zeke Elliott coming back to Dallas. And, fantasy managers, the high profile guys, they stick out in their memory. I mean, people have fond memories of Zeke in the past and what he used to be, but it's not 2018 anymore, folks. Okay, Zeke's not taking on 350 touches at this stage of his career, so this is going to be a committee. I fully acknowledge that, but I see Rico stepping into the Tony Pollard role from 2022, not 2023, not last season where he had all the expectations in the world to handle this massive workload and he couldn't live up to it, and he was. But 2022, back when he was incredibly efficient, back when he was averaging 5.5 yards per carry, and I don't know if Dowdle necessarily has that in his repertoire to be that efficient. I'm not sure, but I don't think he needs to be. I mean, he's in an offense that was number one in the league in scoring in 2023, and PFF has their offensive line ranked 10th, so they're in the top third of the league. So I just think there's enough around Rico Dowdle where he can be one of those guys that you can grab in round 12, and he's going to get 12 to 14 touches every single week because I don't want to put a massive workload on Zeke Elliott. And who knows if Dallas's offense, if they stay high flying and their defense is pretty good too. I mean, maybe they're closing out games and they're doing it with both Zeke and Dowdle, and maybe some of those touch totals go up a little bit. Maybe it's more than 12, 14 touches in some weeks. So, and it's another guy kind of like Palmer where you're getting him so late where if it doesn't work out, it doesn't hurt you at all. But this is a lottery ticket that I want to buy, especially at the running back position, where if someone gets hurt, like if this is the year that Zeke with a million carries on his frame breaks down, maybe more of that workload shifts to Dowdle. So I want to buy those scratch tickets, and this is what I'm buying in Dallas in Rico Dowdle.
Yeah, I like the call with Dowdle. I think just strategy wise, as you talk, mentioned it, just with a scratch ticket, like I like going with running backs that, teams don't have a clear RB1 or, by a committee because as Ethan said in the past too, upside wins you championships, right? So I think if you do find some of those backs in the later rounds that have a lot of volume, whether it's a community or not, I think it's still a good pick no matter what. I mean, you look at Kyron Williams and the list goes on from running backs that preseason people fantasy managers weren't really in on, and then hey, if you just take a shot on them, they work out for you. So I like that call.
At that price point, I don't think you can go wrong with Rico Dowdle. As you said, Kamish, that offense has been pumping out running back production year after year, and the competition for touches isn't high there. Zeke Elliott, I think he's on his last leg, so I think it's wheels up for Rico Dowdle. He's getting a lot of hype in camp. A lot of people are saying he will lead the Dallas Cowboys in rushing this year, and the Dallas Cowboys are going to have a very good offense. They're usually tops in the league. So if I can get a running back and an efficient offense that late, sign me up.
All right, all right. We all like it. We all like it. That's good. But hey, this is kind of like the prime time part of the show here. This is the show that I know Aaron Brown is very excited to talk about. We haven't talked hot takes in months here, so we won't make Aaron wait one moment longer here. Aaron, just hit us with it, brother. Like, what's your hot take for us here in tonight's episode?
All right, so I got two for you
Oh,
guys.
I'm nervous.
So I thought I'd just make it a little spicy, just kind of add a little cherry on top with my
Little
sleeper.
flair, little Aaron Brown
Little
time
flair.
flair.
So I'm gonna say Wan'Dale Robinson this year scores over 200 full point PPR fantasy points this year. So over 200 points, that should give you that should make him a top 32 wide receiver. So I
Okay.
actually think he's gonna be number 32 um wide receiver this year in 2024. So that's hot take number one. And then for number two, I'm gonna go with a bet here for you guys. One I placed a while back ago, but you guys mentioned his name earlier. I forget who it was, but I like this bet a lot. It's Mike Williams under 750 yards this year. I think I think with Mike Williams, how many snaps he's had in the last 2 years, which is not much at all. I think that's a pretty safe bet that, to really bet on him going over 750. As we know, Aaron Rodgers hyper targets his number one with Garrett Wilson, and he loves a slot player. So I love my Malachi Corley too. So I think Mike Williams may have a couple nice plays, but I don't think he makes I don't think he gets over that 750 yard hump this year. So those are my two hot takes.
Ethan, what do you think about Aaron's hot takes?
The first one, well, it looks like Daniel Jones is on the up and up because he's going to support a top 5 receiver Neighbors, a top 32 receiver in Wan'Dale Robinson. The sky's the limit for the Giants
That's
offense.
right.
So, I mean, full point PPR, I guess you never know. He was earning a ton of targets at the end of the 2023 season. I don't think it's going to happen, but hey, it's hot take season. So, I mean, it's not supposed to happen, but we'll see. Mike Williams, I think that's a pretty good bet considering he only played 3 games last year. He played 13 the year before last, but he just needs to stay healthy. If he does stay healthy, I think he has a decent chance to eclipse that considering the target competition is basically Garrett Wilson and him. We mentioned the other the Jags on the team earlier. Malachi Corley, we'll see what he can do, but he is a rookie, so he's probably going to take some time. But it was I mean, not as spicy as I thought from Aaron. I mean, usually he's
I'm warming up,
over the
warming up
moon.
for the season.
Yeah. Yeah, we gave you months to cook that up, especially the Williams take. I wasn't overly impressed with the lack of hotness on that one. So, but it was your first one of the year. You get that one out of the way, and next time you'll knock our socks off with it. I just know it. But Ethan, let's go to you, man. What do you got for a hot take for us?
I'm gonna stick with one of my flag plants, my guy Brock Bowers. This is gonna be a little spicy here. I think he will set the all-time rookie tight end receptions record that Sam Laporta claimed last year with 86 receptions. So I think Brock Bowers eclipses 86 receptions, and it will make back-to-back years where a rookie will be the tight end overall one. So very, very spicy.
It is spicy,
spicy.
especially considering the offense. I mean, Detroit, one of the best offenses in the league versus Gardner Minshew and or Aiden O'Connell for a first-time head coach. So yeah, that's definitely rises to the level of spicy for me, Aaron. What do you think?
I think so. Definitely. I think you one up me there, though. That is pretty hot there. Him and
Yeah,
Wendell are gonna have a battle.
yeah, I definitely understand. Like I mentioned earlier with Brock Bowers, I know we would like to see that offense more efficient. The odds of finishing as a number one fantasy scorer at your position in an offense that's towards the bottom isn't ideal. But hey, we're throwing hot takes out there. He's just going to get 1 million receptions. That's what's going to put him over the edge.
All right. Well, speaking of wide receivers and speaking of guys that we brought up as one of our flag plants, I'm going to be going to Malik Neighbors as part of my hot take. I'm going to say he's going to finish in the top 5 among wide receivers in targets in 2024. I made the case earlier. Obviously, he's the only one out there on his team, so he's going to get plenty of looks coming his way. But I also look at the Giants' defense. They were 26th in the league in points per game allowed last season. I know they made some splashy moves. They signed Brian Burns. They traded for Brian Burns, and then they used their second and third rounders on secondary pieces to replace some guys that they lost. But those guys are rookies. Who knows if they're going to be ready to go for week 1? I just think point being that a combination of the Giants defense, probably being below average again, and also with a lack of target competition, I just think the targets are going to get funneled Neighbors' way like crazy. I can kind of see that perfect storm brewing, and it's been over a decade since a rookie wideout was top 5 in targets. So definitely, I think rises to at least the level of a hot take here, guys. What do you think?
Hey, as long as shares the wealth with Wandale a little bit on the targets, then I don't mind.
We could toss him a target every other week or so.
Yeah, no, I think that's a decent hot take, obviously, because I mean it's been a while, like you said, 10 years, but there's not many other players to throw the ball to on that offense, and the Giants are going to be trailing, as you said. So Daniel Jones is going to have to chuck the hell out of the rock to stay in games, and he's going to be looking Neighbors' way quite often. So I think that is an actual a possibility.
Yeah, it is, and it also means that one of CeeDee Lamb, Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, Garrett Wilson, St. Brown, Jamar Chase means one of those guys aren't going to be top 5 in targets either. So bumping out one of those stars from day one. So, but that's what we have for you folks here. Some good flag plants, who are firmly in on entering the 2024 season. Snuck some sleepers in and some hot takes. Always a good time to do that. We'll have you covered all the way up until draft season and then beyond. So make sure you're hitting that subscribe button and make sure you're following us on all of our social media platforms as well. And until next time, folks, peace.